So Steve Clifford went on the Woj podcast to talk about the Hornets, Lamelo Ball, the way he's trying to build this team up, and Michael Jordan. It was an interesting conversation. And after I play you the audio clip, I'm going to give my honest opinion of what I thought about the interview. And I'll chime in.
Right now, but when you looked at this roster and looked at style of play and how you're going to coach here, you saw what?
Yeah, I think will be the most talented team that I've coached. I've had good teams, but probably, I don't know this for sure, but probably never had a team that was picked to be better than 7th or 8th. This team is made to run. A lot of offensive firepower, and what we need to be able to do is to continue to build on the offense where there's so much good that's been done, and then become more balanced. And if we do that, we can take another step this year.
You built an incredible relationship with Kemba Walker in your time here together, and was the leader of your team. He was your best player, and I think you guys always had a very strong shared view of how you'd play and how you'd kind of carry out your vision and your leadership with the group. Very different background, experience, national championship college player than Lamelo Ball, who's just had a little different generation and a different pathway to the NBA, different experiences leading into it. How do you build a relationship and build a partnership with him, and you start to think about the time you want to put in? He's your best player, and you've got to be able to have that with him too, right?
Yeah, I think it starts as much as anything, and we've had conversations, but it starts with having the right individual plan and the right team plan. The best players that I've been around, they want direction, they want to be coached, they want structure, and I think that's where Kemba and I got along well. And with Melo, where we're at right now, because I told him, and this goes back to the Van Gundy way, we're not going to guess. I'm not ready yet. It's only been a couple of weeks to start talking to him in real specifics about the 2 or 3 areas that he needs to concentrate more on. I've told him that. We're all watching film every day, and as we get here in these next 2 or 3 weeks, I'll feel more comfortable sitting down and saying, this is what I see. Do you agree with this, not agree with it? And that's where coach-player starts, I think, in the NBA. It was me trying to be as much of an expert as I can on how they'll play the best, how they can grow, and then the discussion, the transparency and discussion about those things. How can he play so that he plays well and the team functions well when he's on the floor? The thing I already like about him, a lot from talking to him, but also by watching film, that's very similar to Kemba, though, is he has a love of the game. When you watch him play, there's joy on the floor, which when you watch Kemba play all the way up through, from Rice to UConn to the NBA, it was one of the things that stood out about him also.
You mentioned Michael Jordan and kept a relationship with him, and sort of seeing things, and you talk about work with him, that there's things, I think what his values are and what he values in a team, an organization. When you started to talk to him again about coming back, and he looked at where this group was and what he wanted for it, your sense that, listen, they want to get better defensively and they want to mature a young group, was your sense that, like, all the things that you talked about early when you became the head coach here is what he wanted again? Like, you were back at a place where you fit what he knew the group needed.
Yeah, I think with Michael it's very interesting, because even the other coaches in the league always ask, how is it? Because he was such a ferocious competitor, obviously winner. It can be intimidating for sure. But I always point out to people, if you watch the documentary, is all of the clips of him in practice, him on the bench when they talk to players, it was always a coverage, a technique, something about where the ball was going to go, right? And that's how he is as an owner. That's why, to me, I think we've always gotten along well. He likes to come in and talk basketball, and it's never, just generic effort-based stuff. He'll send you a text after a game and saying, did you ever think about this on that coverage? I like the way you guys guarded this. Or, what do you think about putting this guy in the post more, or anything like that? That's the way he thinks. He's nuts and bolts basketball. Where he gets upset is they're not helping each other on defense. The ball's not moving freely. And I actually think it's a huge advantage to be working for him because he knows. He knows. He watches games closely, and he knows why you win, why you lose. And so I'm on it.
My thoughts on the interview. You know how I do it, RawTruth Media. You know how we do it. There will not be any sugarcoating. He mentioned that this is the most talented team that he has ever coached. But in reality, the Eastern Conference is the toughest that it's been in a long time. And that team that he had with Kemba Walker, since he likes to mention his name all of a sudden, all the time, that was an easier Eastern Conference. So it's really half-truths. Yeah, this is the most talented team he has coached. But the other teams he's coached in the past were a lot cheaper in roster spending. See, this roster has a Lamelo Ball, who made an all-star team at 20 years old, who's still growing. Terry Rozier, no matter what we say about him, we know he's a shot chucker and doesn't play defense, but he did score 20 points as well, or I think 19 or 20, close enough. And Gordon Hayward, when he's healthy, he has done more stat-wise than certain players in the past. That is true, but the team doesn't match. And there's not enough willing defenders. So you could talk about, players don't want to go to the small teams unless they get paid more. But look what the Lakers did. They didn't overspend. They got a couple of players that fit with their scheme, some shooters, some defensive wings, versatile athletes. And all I wanted the Hornets to do was get the type of guards, small forwards, power forwards, and centers that match with LaMelo's game. And the crazy part is they didn't even have to overspend. They overspent for Cody Martin, and nobody was going to give him a 4-year, $8 million per year, 32 overall $1 million contract. So I don't know if Michael Jordan is really serious about winning as an owner as he was as a player. But my biggest fear is that Steve Clifford won't hold the vets accountable and will hold the young guys more accountable, which is the same stuff that JB did. That's why people call Clifford JB 2.0. Now, the only bright side about Clifford is that he usually allows the point guard to get minutes. He did it with Kemba. He did it with other guards. So he's known for doing that. But then again, he liked Kemba so much. Kemba was a yes man to some people. So he didn't have a problem with Kemba. Lamelo has a mentality just like father and brothers, where you do for self and there's some independence. Now, Lamelo is coachable. You could talk to his high school coaches, middle school coaches. They'll say the whole thing, he is coachable, so it won't be a problem. But my advice to Steve Clifford, and I know you've been coaching for years, brother, But I would have Lamelo Ball on speed dial every time to talk to him about what sets he wants to run, what lineups he likes that fits with his game, ways to improve his game, comfortability. Those are the conversations I would have if I was in Steve Clifford's shoes. But this is Raw Truth Media, and I'm out.